So today, we're diving into one of ancient India's most fascinating and honestly, most misunderstood texts, the Atharvaveda. You know, while the Rig, Sama, and Yajur Vedas are kind of seen as this great trinity, the Atharvaveda, well, it's the mysterious fourth sibling. It's packed with spells, healing chants, and really practical advice. But for centuries, its very identity has been up for debate.
And that's what makes this so interesting. For literally thousands of years, there's been this one huge question hanging over the text. Is the Atharvaveda even a Veda at all? And look, this isn't just some modern academic argument. This is a controversy that is as old as the tradition itself.
So where did this debate even come from? Well, the root of it is buried deep inside other ancient texts, like the Aitareya Brahmana. See, these sources often talk about a trinity of Vedas, just 3. This led a lot of the early authorities to basically exclude the Atharvaveda. They saw it as something different, something separate from the high-minded rituals of the other 3.
All right, so let's just tackle this controversy head on, shall we? Why was this Veda so often set apart? What is it about its contents that's so unique it sparked all this debate for centuries?
Because here's the thing, and this is the most important point. Regardless of its official status, the Atharvaveda is an absolute treasure. Why? Because it's a Veda of the people. It deals with the raw, everyday stuff of life. You know, the fear of snakes, the hope for a good harvest, the pain of getting sick, and the desire for a long, happy life. It's humanity at its most real.
And that brings us to maybe the most famous, and probably the most sensationalized, part of the Atharvaveda, its connection to what we today would just call magic. We're talking about hymns for protection, for success, and for dealing with all the forces of the world, both seen and unseen.
You'll often hear the term Jadu-Tona, magic and sorcery, thrown around with this text. But we really need to reframe what that meant. This wasn't about fantasy or pulling rabbits out of hats. For them, this was a practical technology. It was a way for people to have some control over a pretty dangerous world, a way to protect their families, and really a way to shape their own destiny.
Honestly, think of it like a complete toolkit for getting through life. It had powerful incantations to help you defeat your enemies, whether in battle or just in your daily life. There were chants to drive away what they believed were demons bringing bad luck or sickness. You had specific charms against real-world threats, like venomous snakes. And it wasn't all defense. There were also prayers for success in your business, in farming, and yep, even incantations to win the affection of someone you loved. It was the whole shebang.
A perfect example of this is the Shatrunashak Sukta, that literally means the hymn for the annihilation of enemies. And its verses are potent. They call on divine forces to just scatter anyone who wishes you harm. I mean, this gives you a vivid glimpse into a world where spiritual power was seen as a very real weapon.
But here's where it gets really deep. The idea of an enemy in the Atharvaveda was incredibly broad. It wasn't just about rival clans or people who didn't like you. No, some of the most terrifying enemies were completely invisible. The fevers, the infections, the diseases that were a constant threat back then.
And this fight against those invisible enemies, well, that's where the Atharvaveda's legacy becomes truly profound. Because it's not just a book of spells. It's one of the foundational texts of Ayurveda, the ancient Indian science of medicine. It's basically a handbook for healers.
And the text is incredibly specific. This isn't just some vague talk about being unwell. It's practically a catalog of the ailments people were dealing with. It describes treatments for jvara or fever. It talks about kushta, which was a whole range of skin diseases. It even addresses jaundice, different kinds of poisoning, headaches, and a wasting disease they called yaxma, which we now think was probably tuberculosis.
And the treatments they talked about? Well, they were remarkably scientific for their time. The Atharvaveda is like a virtual encyclopedia of medicinal plants. It describes specific herbs to use to reduce inflammation, or fight an infection, or even act as an antidote to poison. This is the very beginning of a really sophisticated system of herbal medicine.
But what's really cool is that this medical knowledge wasn't just about curing sickness, it was about promoting wellness. Take the Dirgha Ayu Prapti Sukta. That means hymn for attaining a long life. The goal here wasn't just to get better when you're sick. It was to live a full, healthy, energetic life for 100 years. I mean, that's a proactive, holistic vision of health that feels so incredibly modern.
Okay,
So we've seen magic for personal protection and medicine for personal health. But the Atharvaveda's vision was way bigger than just the individual. It understood that your well-being is completely tied to the health of your entire community. And so, it offers a blueprint for how everyone should live together.
And this is where the text turns into this comprehensive guide to life, right? It covers everything from the duties of a king all the way down to how family members should treat each other day to day.
I mean, it lays out a clear framework for a society that actually works. It spells out the responsibilities of the ruler, it establishes principles for justice and what to do when someone does wrong, it gives really detailed advice for keeping peace in the home, it has guidelines for fair trade and good farming, and it sets the expectations for how you should behave in public. It's basically a complete social contract.
And when it talks about governing, the vision is so clear. The ideal king, as they describe him, is no tyrant, no way. He is the protector of the people. His main job is to establish peace and make sure that justice is delivered fairly to everybody, punishing the guilty and protecting the innocent.
This focus on harmony goes right into the home, and the verses are just beautiful. Family members are told to be of one mind, to love each other the way a cow loves her newborn calf. A wife should speak sweetly and peacefully to her husband. It just paints this picture of a family that's built on respect, on love, and on a shared purpose.
So when you put it all together, the controversy, the magic, the medicine, the social rules, what you get is something truly unique in all of world literature. You get a Veda of the people.
And that's really the key difference. While the other Vedas might focus more on cosmic gods and elaborate rituals, the Atharvaveda, it has its feet planted firmly on the ground. It really is a Veda of the earth, not just the heavens. It's this raw, unfiltered record of what people thousands of years ago were actually afraid of, what they hoped for, and what they believed could give them some power over their lives.
Ultimately, the Atharvaveda is like a mirror. When you look into its verses, you see the reflection of our ancient ancestors, and not as some abstract historical figures, but as real people, people with real problems and deep hopes. They worried about their kids, their health, and their farms, just like we do today.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? What does it really mean that our deepest concerns, for our safety, for our health, for a fair society, for a loving family, echo so clearly in these ancient hymns? What do all these spells for protection and cures for disease really teach us about our own lives right here, right now?